All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So what we do here is we take the sources, you give us reports, articles, you name it, and we really dig in.
Yeah, we try to pull out the key insights, the things that maybe, surprise you, and basically give you the rundown on what's important in that material.
Think of it as us navigating the info for you, connecting the dots so you get the core understanding.
Exactly. And today we're getting into a really tough case. It's tragic, but the sources we have emphasize why it's so important to talk about.
Definitely. It touches on, well, how we connect today, right? Meeting people online, strangers.
Specifically, this deep dive uses source material covering the murder of Sade Robinson. This happened in Milwaukee, April 2024.
And the sources really highlight how mundane the beginning was, just a dating app match.
Yeah, that's what's so jarring about it, according to these reports.
So look, this is obviously a difficult subject. We want to be upfront that we're sticking strictly to the details, perspectives, everything presented in the source material provided.
Our goal here is just to understand the sequence of events as laid out in these reports, the investigation details, and maybe unpack some of the bigger questions about safety that the sources raise.
Right. Let's get into it.
So the story really starts with Sade Robinson. The sources describe her 19 years old.
Yeah, 19. A college student in Milwaukee, described as bright, ambitious, just, starting her life.
And like so many people, she was using a dating app. That's how she connected with Maxwell Anderson. He was 34.
And the sources make a point of saying those first messages.
Yeah.
They seem totally fine.
Normal, polite even, I think one report said. Nothing that screamed danger,
Which is maybe the first, really unsettling point the sources bring up, how normal it all seemed at first.
Definitely. So they decide to meet up, first date, dinner, April 1st.
And there's this line in the source material, it hits hard. No one knew it would also be her last.
Yeah, and then she disappears, doesn't come home that night.
Which, the sources stress, was not like her at all.
No, described as responsible, always checked in. So her family knew pretty much instantly something was wrong.
They reported her missing very quickly.
Days go by, silence. Then, the first really bad sign.
Her car.
It's found.
Found burned out, abandoned, the inside just completely charred.
And no sign.
No sign of her. And police, according to the sources, immediately suspected the fire was deliberate.
Right, to destroy evidence. A classic, horrible sign.
Exactly. So the car itself isn't giving them much about her. They pivot.
Digital trail, cell phone data.
Yep. Location history, call logs, messages. Standard procedure now, but crucial here.
And that data pointed to?
The last person she was in contact with before she vanished. Maxwell Anderson.
So, okay, police track him down, bring him in.
And his story, according to the sources, super brief, dismissive almost.
What she said.
Basically, we had dinner, went our separate ways, that's it.
But the investigators, they weren't buying it.
Not at all, based on the reports. His timeline maybe didn't match the phone data. The sources imply it just didn't hold up. Okay, so their suspicion grows.
And they get a warrant to search his apartment.
And the descriptions in the source material of what they found there,
Yeah. The sources use phrases like, make your skin crawl.
Can you walk us through what the report specifically listed?
Okay, so the reports detail finding blood, and not just a little, everywhere. That's the word used.
Everywhere.
On towels, even on tools. Clear signs of a violent struggle having happened right there in his apartment.
On tools. Wow, that's specific and horrifying.
It really is. And then the absolute worst discovery, the sources say, was in his freezer.
Oh, no.
Dismembered human remains, frozen, hidden.
And they confirmed it was her.
DNA tests confirmed it. Yes, it was Sade Robinson.
Unbelievable. And the motive. Did the sources shed any light on why? That's always the question.
That's one of the most baffling parts. According to the sources, they repeatedly touch on this lack of a clear why.
No big fight mentioned, no history.
Nothing like that reported. No known argument, the sources say. No prior relationship, no ongoing conflict. They literally just met.
So what did the sources suggest? Anything.
Well, they bring in psychological angles later, mentioning that experts suggested Anderson might have been dealing with severe, untreated mental illness.
Like what? Did they specify?
Possibly narcissistic or even psychopathic tendencies were floated, according to the source material. But these were suggestions, not, definitive diagnoses presented in court necessarily.
Right, so potential internal factors, not an external trigger we know about.
Exactly. And the sources also mentioned looking into his past. Reports apparently noted a history of, let's say, disturbing behavior.
Disturbing how?
The specifics aren't fully detailed in the summary we have, but the key point the sources make is that it was nothing that ever got reported.
So he flew under the radar. Slipped through the cracks, I think one source put it.
Precisely. Described as quiet, kept to himself. No major criminal record that would flag him.
And the source made that chilling point. Sometimes that's the type no one sees coming.
Yeah, it really highlights that gap, doesn't it? Someone can be deeply troubled, maybe even dangerous, but if it's not public or officially recorded...
It's invisible to standard checks.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so they have the evidence, they have him. What about the trial?
It went to trial pretty much exactly a year later, April 2025.
And the evidence?
The sources just state it was overwhelming.
Given the apartment, the DNA?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So the jury verdict was quick, according to the reports. Guilty, first-degree intentional homicide.
And the sentence?
Life in prison, no possibility of parole.
So justice served in the legal sense, but the sources say the story didn't end there.
Not even close. This case, the reports emphasize, it really sparked national conversations.
How so? What was the reaction?
Online especially. People were just furious, shocked, heartbroken. Those are the words the sources used.
I remember seeing some of that. What specific things came out of it? Well, a lot of focus went straight to the dating apps. Demands for, better safety measure.
Like what kind of measures?
Things like mandatory ID verification, maybe background checks, even warning systems for people new to the apps, that kind of discussion.
And it also seemed to really highlight the vulnerability aspect, right? Especially for women.
Hugely. The sources talk about this, focus on how agreeing to a simple first date could put someone in immense danger.
Just saying yes to dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that resonated. You saw hashtags, memorials online, petitions. People started sharing their own bad experiences.
Scary dates, uncomfortable situations.
Right. And the sources even noted women talking about changing their behavior, like texting friends live updates from dates.
Just in case. That really tells you something. The fear became very tangible.
It absolutely did. And the sources try to explain why Sade's story specifically hit so hard.
What was their take on that?
They say it felt real because she wasn't depicted as doing anything wrong, not reckless.
It's a normal young woman.
Just a 19-year-old girl trying to live her life, as one source put it, going to school, meeting people. Things everyone does.
And the sources remind us who she was beyond the case, right?
Yeah, they bring back those descriptions. Smart, vibrant, full of dreams, wanted to travel, had goals, friends, a mom who called her entire world.
And the source conclusion is just brutal.
All of that was destroyed by someone she barely even knew.
That randomness, the connection to something so common like a dating app,
Yeah.
That's what shook people.
So this case really serves as a grim reminder based on these sources.
Definitely. One source has this line: behind every app notification, every friendly message, there can be darkness. It's quite stark.
And it highlights that contradiction the sources point out. We're told constantly, put yourself out there, connect more.
Sometimes that very act of putting yourself out there is what creates the vulnerability. It's a tough paradox.
Yeah. And ultimately, the sources are clear. Sade Robinson deserved safety, deserved a future.
Deserved to come home that night. So looking back at this deep dive, pulling it all together from the source material, we saw the story start with something so ordinary, a dating app match.
Then the sudden disappearance, the family's immediate fear, which the sources really emphasized.
Followed by those horrifying discoveries the police made. The details from the apartment.
Yeah.
The blood, the tools, the freezer. Chilling details in the reports.
And that lack of a clear motive, contrasted with the psychological suggestions and the history of unreported behavior, the slipping through the cracks idea from the sources.
Right. Then the trial, the conviction based on overwhelming evidence described in the reports, and finally, that huge national conversation that erupted.
Because it felt so real, so possible. It wasn't some distant, unbelievable crime for many people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And building on that insight from the sources about how someone seemingly normal or without a record can pose such a risk.
It really leaves you with this unsettling question, doesn't it? Considering how this all unfolded from just meeting someone online.
Yeah. How do you navigate that? How do you stay safe in this digital age where meeting strangers is the norm? Especially when the sources show us that even seemingly ordinary interactions, ordinary people can hide such extreme danger.
It's a question that definitely sticks with you.
It really does. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the source material surrounding the tragic case of Sade Robinson.